Okay, next steps. So we're going to jump back up to full scale, and we're going to look at what the differences are there at full scale, and sort of compare the two as well up there. So you can double click on your full scale perspective view, and from here, I mean, everything is already pre-set up, so there's really not much more to do, right? We just re-render it the way it is. The other thing that I do want to bring, I guess, to the forefront is that we have to additionally modify the surfaces so that they render properly. Okay, I'm not going to re-render the flat planes because we know they're going to show up as black reflective surfaces, and it's not going to look good. So I'll ungroup this, and I'm just going to take the first couple of surfaces that need to be extruded. Oh, let me get on the right layer. Extrude this. And the other thing that I didn't do for my other model is I didn't get rid of the plane surface as well. So that's why you saw some of those graphic glitches. Let me show you this one right here. So see how it's all like fractured and messed up? That's because there's the extruded poly surface and the original surface was left there. So that created a graphic glitch. So let's get rid of that flat surface every time we do this. Get rid of that. And I'm only extruding it like 1/8 of an inch. I might go back and redo it later, but for a little bit more. If you want to probably give it a little bit more of a realistic depth, you can go for 1 inch. Okay, that should be enough for me, and then I'm going to go ahead and re-render that. Let's give it a couple minutes and then we'll discuss. Make sure you reset your settings because it looks like that if you don't, because that's still set to constant dome without the sun settings. So go back into your scene manager, which I have over here, and just switch these back. Go to your preset, full scale, apply, preset, full scale, apply. Everything else should be fine. Alright, and we'll give that a few minutes. Alright, so you can kind of see it starting to develop. It's getting a little bit better now. But really, the thing that I'm trying to get to is that, you know, the glazing and glass elements, when they're large fields and when you don't have anything on the interior environment of the space, they feel very like they don't contribute to the massing model very much. Okay, so it's up to you to really, you know, pick when and where you want to use these materials. But my suggestion is to stick with a more massing approach, the less detailed your model is. Okay, once you start to develop more detail, it becomes essential to switch your materials to be something that's a little bit more, not, I don't want to say realistic, but appropriate for the type of element that you're trying to communicate. That's actually a little bright. Anyway, I guess with that we can start moving into what your assignment's going to be, unless you guys have questions about that. But you have plenty of opportunities when I'm doing those little draft renders to ask questions, so I don't imagine you have much. Are there any questions? Yeah, I didn't think so. It's all really simple stuff. So when we start to develop the assignment, remember, the assignment write-up has a few different sort of intermediate milestones on there. And week 1, which sort of was part of what you saw here, was designing with rendering in mind, right? So that was basically just, you know, thinking through the process and trying to figure out when you're going to model what. And so we developed the model in week 1, and in week 2, we're developing those glazing specifics and key architectural elements, okay? So as you progress, I want you to be thinking about what are the best detail elements to start incorporating into my model for us to produce drafts of this at both scales for week 2. Okay, so these draft renders that you have, save them, keep them, because we're actually going to put a comparative set of each one as the model has progressed throughout these 3 weeks, and we're going to look at them as a group. Okay, does that make any sense? So you're going to need one full-scale massing model. You're going to need one studio-scale massing model, and that's going to be sort of your week 1/today assignment. Then you're also going to need, by the end of this week, for our week 2 for this assignment, we're going to do some more detail. We're going to assign some, probably we're going to finalize by putting in some glazing like we have here, when and where it's appropriate. And then key architectural elements and details, right? So that's going to be your moderately detailed model. And then week 3, we're going to be adding real specific details to the architectural conditions so that you can see what's going to be most appropriate there and what types of materials to use as things get more detailed. Okay, does that make sense? Are there any questions about the assignment? Okay, yeah.
I do have a question. On those photos for comparison, do you need, like, let's say I have my perspective shot like that, and if I want to change slightly, does it matter? Does it have to be exactly the same?
I would prefer the images to stay the same, but if at some point you find that it needs to change, then...
Oh, then you can just crop in your old one.
Yeah, you could just drop in your old massing model, sure. But your lighting settings might change. I mean, it's not that critical. I'd say your last 2 from week 2 and 3 should be pretty locked in, but the week 1 ones, these massing ones, are not that mission critical. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So by the end of the day today, I think you guys should probably get to a point where you've got your glazing detailed and broken down so that it's not just one giant pane of glass. And you can do that however you see fit. You could use the grasshopper method that I showed you before. You could just model in some square frames or rectangular frames, however you want to produce it. And you should have an idea of what that entry element is going to be, okay, and what it's going to be made out of. Does that make sense? Like what kind of form it's going to take, not just a cut hole in the wall. Okay, there should be some detail, maybe steps or something like that, that designates that as an entry.
Yes.
All right, so you've got a little over an hour for the remainder of class, and I'll be sort of around helping you guys out with that.